Enjoy. So that's the theme. We have a really busy agenda for this 45 minutes with some great companies who are doing cool stuff in navigation and discovery. And so I'm going to bring aboard our first trio. I have two Steves and a Peter. Peter Docherty from ThinkAnalytics, Steve Necessary from Cox Communications, and Steve Tranter from Cisco. Gentlemen, come on up. There you are. Good to see you. This is a Steve. This is Cisco Steve. This is Peter, ThinkAnalytics. You all know Steve Necessary from Cox Communications. So you guys are in the thick of trying to bring experiences, better experiences around content discovery to your customers, your customers. And it's a very open-ended question. How are you going about doing it? Steve, you want to show us some of your work? Or
I'll be happy to.
All right.
I'll jump right up.
As Steve is setting up, so you guys, both of your companies have worked with Cox as a customer to sort of make what he's about to show us possible and happening.
Yeah, I mean, what we've really seen is a global trend for trying to personalize the TV experience and make the discovery and navigation much more of a lean back experience for the user, proactively presenting content to them. And Cox, in combination with Cisco and ThinkAnalytics, really I think the first in the US to have that individually personalized experience on the set-top box and now also on the iPad, as Steve's going to show.
Steve, are you fired up over there?
I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
Let's go ahead and bring it up to the my iPad screen. So what I'm demonstrating here is a next generation application around personal video, and you see that the application is launching. It brings it up. The first thing you'll notice, while the iPad itself is of course an inherently personal experience, what we're really focused on is in fact the personalization of that video experience. You'll notice at the top of the screen there's Ryan. Ryan is a profile that's loaded on this particular version of the application, and this profile of Ryan matches the same profile that's on the set-top box using our Trio user interface. What Ryan is seeing under the live content section is in fact the same 8 channels that are recommended for him on his individual profile using the ThinkAnalytics recommendation engine. And so Brian can access that content by tapping on that. It brings up the full screen of the video itself. If he wants more information, I can tap on it. I'll bring up information about that. There's more on reviews, related shows, and so forth. I'll back up out of that. There's also always, of course, the need and the desire for a guide. And so press the guide icon there on the bottom of the screen. And while, of course, this guide behaves in the way in which you would expect by swiping up and down and left and right, you'll also notice on some of the icons, some of the metadata, there will be a diamond, and that diamond is the same diamond that represents recommended content for the customer. And if you pick a piece of that content, you can of course then set your DVR recording for that content or add it to the watch list. I'll also go back to the live just to demonstrate here. And so while I'm watching this content, when I tap on the screen, you'll notice at the bottom left hand of the screen is the red circle. So if I press that, I could begin the recording of that content. Or you see up at the top left where it says watch on TV, I tap on that and it will change my set-top box, act as a remote control and change the function there. So I'll back out of that and go back to the original screen. When we launch this application later this summer, we will bring live content. Currently we have 91 channels. That will be increasing over the next month or two. We'll also provide access to the on-demand content, and initially with our free on-demand content, followed by other categories as we move forward. And again, the same kinds of recommendations for the on-demand content are exhibited here as would be provided for the consumer on their set-top box. And then the last category is My Library. Initially what we have depicted here are some of the programs on Ryan's watch list. A future release will bring DVR content. And then you also notice apps for some of our content partners as well as other Cox applications. And so here is where, for instance, you see depicted HBO Go and the CNN app. And this will be a location where customers can access other programmer-oriented applications, again in a seamless and an aggregated fashion. Lastly, I'll just go up to the top there, and while an iPad is typically a unique individual device, it can be shared, and so you see here depicted profiles for Ryan, his father Charles, and his mother Michelle. And if I were to pick Michelle, then the content will change, and so when I'm in the live section, the channels that are represented match Michelle's recommended content, no longer Ryan's recommended content. So again, hopefully what you're seeing here is a uniquely personalized experience in a very dramatic user interface, a lot of intuition applied to the design and the navigation elements, all really aimed at maximizing our customers' experience with the many, many thousands of choices that we have for them at any one point in time.
Thank you, Steve. It looks amazing. I know that the footprint and the breadth of the work that Peter's company is doing truly is global. I know we have a video I think we can just kind of run in the background as we talk about this product and what's going on in discovery at large. Quick anecdote, Peter. I remember when I first signed up for Netflix back in the DVD by mail days, to divine a sense of what you like to watch, you filled out a questionnaire. It was almost like an IRS form. I mean, it was really pretty labored and intense. How do you learn? What are the inputs that you guys take into account to begin to learn me, to understand what I am into?
Yeah, I think just in the same as with the recommendations and being able to integrate the recommendations into the normal navigation experience, the same thing is true on the learning side. And being able to learn based on what you're watching, what you're recording, you could use liking and disliking, adding to a wish list. So really any action that a user might take can be used to feed into their profile and really be able to personalize the experience. And that can be, like Steve was saying, can be on the set-top box, can be on the iPad, can be on any device and any type of content.
Steve, you've been in this business for a while and you've seen this evolution from old blocky grids to kind of what you're showing now. And I'm just curious to know, from your personal vantage point, how does this change the experience? I mean, from almost a humanistic standpoint, what are some of the implications of this kind of power, if you will?
Well, a simple but I like to believe lofty goal is that it will enable customers to find and enjoy more content than they would have otherwise found. It's interesting. The grid, of course, is actually still a requirement in all designs, and many of us are used to that, but it's also inadequate. We know that in and of itself it's inadequate, and just enabling customers to find that content without having to be active in the pursuit of that content. I mean, yes, we have search, and search is fine if I'm actually searching for a specific piece of content. A lot of times I'm not. As a consumer, I'm just trying to find something to watch, and this lets it come to me very passively. I don't have to engage in voting it up or down as a piece of content. I can to make the algorithm learn more quickly, but it really just maximizes that experience. So it really is the next step function in the personalization of the video experience.
Steve T, so from a television side, from a set-top connected television standpoint, I think there's always been this sort of idea that the set-top limits what we can do, or past iterations of set-tops have limited what we can do. So we've watched these other platforms just trump what the cable industry's discovery offerings have been. Are we getting back to a point of parity, or what's your sense on the market evolution?
It's actually a shift. What we're finding is all of the engine that was behind the guide, which was originally in the set-top box now, is moving to the head end. It's a central point. So the recommendations, the guide data, the preferences to the viewer is now personalized. It's centrally stored. So that information is still being fed down to a set-top box, typically over IP. You can see in the example Steve showed, it's a lot richer with multi-video, multi-media content as well to help you find it, and that's also feeding the same content, is feeding the same viewers personally on other companion devices. So we've got now a real shift from siloed set-top box and separate delivery systems to a centralized, moving towards the cloud, delivering now to multiple devices. And most importantly, what we showed here is the iPad, but we're optimizing the design. So we have a lot of guys working closely with the operators like Cox to get a branded design that is close to the operator's experience, close to their DNA, but is optimized on the device that they're viewing. So, to Steve's point, you don't, on a set-top box, necessarily want to lean forward. You don't always want to search. You want to be seeing what's recommended to you. But on an iPad, you may be more engaged in that device, and so the user experience needs to adapt to that, but keep the same branded experience.
Peter, as a last question, and I'm certain you've thought of this, but as these machines learn us and they get to know us and they tailor recommendations really precisely to what we like to watch, do we risk now not discovering stuff we might like to watch that doesn't fit some kind of a profile?
No, I think that's a key part of the experience, is to balance recommending content that we absolutely know that you like on channels that you're watching. You know, part of what we're doing, you know, learning your favourite kind of movies, your favourite sports teams, to be able to highlight that content to you, but not to neglect discovery and not to neglect recommending content that you wouldn't have found on your own.
Exactly.
Really engaging the user to discover more, while also reminding them about their favourite shows. So it's a balance between the comfort of existing content and discovery of new content as well.
Comfort, that's perfect. That's a great word. Thank you for your time. It's a quick exchange over the stage, but Steve, and Peter, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Thanks, Steve. Take care, Peter.